Addendum. Two crashes. Long Island, New York, circa 1989 or 1991, similar to the Kecksburg incident, a flood of UFO reports, a fireball seen plummeting into a thickly wooded area on the island of Long Island off the coast of New York. Fire starts, people trek into the woods, swear they see some sort of glowing blue object embedded in the dirt. Army shows, they cordon off the area, throw the thing on the back of a flatbed, cart it out, threaten everybody, salute, say good day, hop in their helicopters and screw. Another one is 1986 near Vladivostok in eastern Siberia in the Soviet Union, Vladivostok being where the keeper of the Russian fleet, where the Russians keep their nuclear submarines. Anyways, at a place in Dalnegorsk called Height 611. Basically, what happened was there was a UFO crash that occurred at Height 611, which is a knoll near Dalnegorsk. And apparently, through witnesses, they saw an orangey red fireball fly overhead and strike the earth on this hill. A fire burns for an hour and then puts itself out. Somebody from the Meteorite Commission in the Soviet Union comes and says that's no meteorite, that it certainly didn't have the properties of a meteorite. And when he examined the area, he noticed that the snow had melted and that there were tiny little metallic spheres that they found with very unusual properties. So they take these little spheres, put them under a microscope, and they notice that they're tiny filaments weaved in gold. Now, a hair is 56 microns thick. This particular piece was 7 microns thick of gold filaments, so it was very minute. And this, of course, is physical ET evidence. When somebody like a Carl Sagan or Phil Klass says there's no such thing as UFOs, you prove it to me, here it is. Short and simple. Now, this was made of, had unusual combinations of rare earth elements that were in previously unknown combinations, whether it be nickel or promethium, which is an element not found on Earth that was found in these particles. So they go on to say that the investigators that were exposed, that went up to Height 611 were examined, and their red cell blood count was much higher than those who hadn't. I'd like to now talk about close encounters of the sixth kind. Close encounters of the first kind, a disc is sighted. Close encounters of the second kind, a landed disc or pod marks, indentations in the soil are found. Close encounters of the third kind, occupants are seen. Close encounters of the fourth kind, abduction. Close encounters of the fifth kind, sexual molestation by aliens. And close encounters of the sixth kind, being eaten by aliens. And that's what I'd like to talk to you today. From Natural or Supernatural, Martin S. Caden, I referenced these stories. A B-52, found in the jungles of Viet Nam, lying atop the canopy of thick jungled rainforest. Special Forces investigative team is sent in. They find the B-52 almost fully intact with just some scuffing on the bottom, but no sign that it had come down from a high altitude at which it was flying. Now, prior to the B-52 and the crew's demise, they had reported being attacked by some huge blue light. Special Forces investigative team gets to the side of the crashed aircraft, opens up the hatch, and finds the entire crew had been mutilated. Their eyes removed, tongue removed, their jaw slit back to their larynx and removed, their esophagus taken down out till their anus removed, the entire alimentary canal, and their genitalia removed, and no sign of blood or death by removal of blood. 1953, an Ohio farmer sees his son and his dog playing in the field when all of a sudden a UFO comes over the son and the dog, abducts the dog and the son. He actually sees occupants carrying the dog aboard the craft. He fires a shotgun at it, finds the dog about 20 yards away from where he saw the craft, its head crushed, the boy never seen again. And finally, in March of 1953, at the White Sands Missile Test Range in Alamogordo, New Mexico, near Holloman Air Force Base, Sergeant J.P. Levitt is a sentry on duty. It's 3 in the morning, and his buddy Major Bill Cunningham is also on duty at that time. Anyway, Sergeant Levitt, down the far end of the test range, is seen walking away, and suddenly a UFO appears, and quote the major, something seemed to wrap around the sergeant's legs and drag him into the craft, despite his foul screams. 3 days go by, and they can't find Sergeant Levitt. Major Cunningham is accused of murder, later those charges being dropped. Finally, about 3 miles downrange of where the UFO sighting had occurred, they find the body of the poor Sergeant J.P. Levitt. It had been mutilated. Again, eyes removed, tongue removed, chin gutted to the larynx, esophagus removed down to the anus, alimentary canal surgically stripped, along with genitalia. No sign of struggle, no sign of blood, no sign of death by blood. So here are cases that are remarkably similar to cattle mutilation cases, whereby cattle are found throughout ranches, not only in the United States but around the world, with their genitalia surgically removed, their alimentary canal from their mouth down, their esophagus down to their anus surgically extracted, certain organs removed, eyes removed, tongue removed. Now, the government and other people have claimed that this is the work of satanic cults. Well, first of all, when they find these animal carcasses, there are no footprints, no sign of a struggle, no blood. So what I'm saying, if these are satanic cults, these are the foremost laser surgeons that walk on this planet. And whoever they are, it's a good cult. So you can either say it's a cult of devil worshippers, or it could be alien cooks, so to speak, that are feasting on our livestock. For after all, we are all living entities, and perhaps that they subsist on the same enzymes and proteins that we as earth mammals do. I've heard the aliens being described as part reptile, part mammal, and part insect. So perhaps if you were to look at all of the foods that we eat, that insects eat, that reptiles eat, I'm sure there's a cross there as far as basic building blocks, basic proteins and enzymes that we need to exist. And I think therein lies a uniform or common characteristic as far as foodstuffs go. So these cattle mutilations are increasing, and obviously they're associated with UFO phenomena. There have been countless cases where farmers have actually seen a disc hovering over their cattle and beaming down blue lights. I think what happened in the case of the poor sergeant here is that perhaps these aliens were giddy. Maybe there wasn't cattle around, and they had to settle on the unlucky sergeant as a snack. So I think that if there is a certain race that is visiting the planet Earth that is eating the human being or feasting on us as a delicacy, this problem has to be addressed, and must be addressed now. For we're carnivores. We eat animals. We eat our own species. I'm not talking about the alive incident in the Andes Mountains whereby a plane crash of a soccer team, they end up eating dead bodies. I'm talking about we eat livestock, which is not that far down from the food chain from us. We eat fish. So perhaps that these intergalactic or intersolar systemic beings are feeding on the same foods that we rely to exist, and perhaps they couldn't get to a food supply, so they had to settle for the poor B-52 crew or the poor sergeant. And that concludes the UFO talk, Anthology of UFO Crashes.